It's just after 7 on a Monday night in February, and a stretch of two-lane highway in rural New Hampshire is empty except for one crashed car, nose first in a snowbank, headlights still burning through the falling snow. The airbags have deployed, the windshield is cracked, and the driver is nowhere to be found. No blood. No footprints leading a way that anyone can follow. No body, then or ever. That car belonged to a 21-year-old nursing student named Maura Murray, and in the time it took one neighbor to walk from his porch to his phone to call it in, she disappeared so completely that 2 decades of investigators, volunteers, and amateur sleuths have never found a single piece of hard evidence explaining what happened to her. This is Unsolved Files, and this one still keeps investigators up at night because almost nothing about it adds up. Let's set the scene properly because the details matter. Earlier that day, Maura had a rough one. She got into a fender bender with her father's car back at college, sent an email to her professors saying there'd been a death in the family, and packed a bag. Except there hadn't been a death in the family. Her sister was fine, her father was fine. Nobody in her life could later explain the lie. She withdrew several $100s from an ATM, printed directions to a town in New Hampshire, and got in her car and drove north, alone, in the middle of winter, telling almost no one where she was going. Hours later, her car goes off the road on Route 112, a dark, rural highway near Woodsville, New Hampshire. A school bus driver sees the crash and stops. He offers to call for help. Maura tells him she already called AAA and asks him not to call the police. That detail alone should stop you cold. A young woman alone, stranded in the snow at night, actively trying to keep law enforcement away. He drives off anyway to get help from a nearby house. He's gone maybe 5, at most 10 minutes. When he comes back with a neighbor, the car is still there. Engine running, headlights on, doors locked. Maura Murray is gone. 10 minutes. That's the entire window. No sound of a car pulling away. No screaming. No struggle. In 10 minutes, on an empty road in the freezing dark, a young woman vanished into the tree line or into a stranger's vehicle, and nobody has ever proven which. Here's where the case should have been solvable, and here's where it started falling apart instead. Police were notified that night, but they treated it initially as a simple car accident, not a missing person. Search efforts didn't fully mobilize until the next day. By then, fresh snowfall had already covered any tracks that might have shown which direction she went. The critical first hours, the ones that matter most in any disappearance, were essentially lost to bureaucracy and bad timing. When search dogs were finally brought in, they picked up her scent leading away from the car toward the road, not into the woods, suggesting she may have gotten into a vehicle. But no vehicle was ever identified. No witness ever came forward describing a car stopping for a stranded young woman on Route 112 that night, despite it being a small town where a car in a snowbank would have been hard to miss. Then come the details that turn this from a tragic accident into a genuine mystery. Maura had been on the phone with her boyfriend earlier that day, and investigators found she'd been researching the area around Woodsville online in the weeks before, along with looking into other towns entirely unrelated to her usual routine. Her bank statements, her phone records, her academic troubles, all of it painted a picture of a young woman under enormous hidden stress that none of her family or friends could fully explain after the fact. Was she running from something? Running to someone? planning to disappear on purpose? Investigators have entertained all three theories seriously, and none of them close the case. Now, the suspects and the theories, because there are more than a few, and this is where the story gets genuinely unsettling. There's the theory of a random abduction, a stranger who happened upon a young woman alone and vulnerable on an empty road. There's the theory that she arranged to meet someone that night, someone she never told her family about. There's a persistent rumor involving a man who lived near the crash site with a documented criminal history, someone whose home was searched years later, though nothing conclusive ever came from it. And there's the darkest theory of all, one her family has publicly rejected, that she staged her own disappearance to escape a life that had become unbearable, only for something to go wrong afterward that she never anticipated. Every one of these theories has just enough supporting detail to feel plausible, and just enough missing evidence to remain unproven. That's the exact shape of a case that never gets solved. Not a total absence of leads, but too many half-leads pointing in different directions, none of them ever confirmed. So why, after all these years, does nobody have an answer? Part of it is jurisdiction and time. The crash happened in a rural area with limited resources, and the case was handled by local and state police, who, by their own admission later, made mistakes in the earliest hours when mistakes matter most. Part of it is the missing physical evidence. No body has ever been recovered despite extensive searches of the surrounding woods, rivers, and terrain over multiple years. Part of it is that so many people connected to Maura's final days had their own reasons to stay quiet, whether out of grief, fear, or simply not knowing they held a piece of the puzzle. And part of it, frankly, is that New Hampshire's rural landscape, thick forest, frozen rivers, and vast unmarked terrain is exactly the kind of place where evidence can disappear as completely as a person can. Her family has never stopped looking. Her father spent years combing the woods himself, following tips, funding searches, giving interviews, refusing to let the case go cold in the public's mind, even as it went cold on paper. Documentary crews have retraced her final drive. Podcasts have picked apart every phone record. Amateur investigators have mapped the search radius meter by meter. And still, after 20 years, there has been no arrest, no confirmed sighting, no recovered remains, and no official explanation for what happened in those 10 minutes on Route 112. What we're left with is a case built entirely on the space between facts. A woman who lied about a death that didn't happen. A crash with no clear cause. A 10-minute window with no witnesses. A search that started a day too late. And a family that has spent 2 decades waiting for a phone call that never comes. Maybe she got into a car with someone she knew. Maybe a stranger stopped for her. Maybe she walked into those woods and never walked out. Or maybe somewhere out there she chose to disappear and simply never found a way back. Nobody knows. That's not a hook. That's the actual, documented, unresolved truth of this case, sitting in evidence files in New Hampshire right now. If this is the kind of case that gets under your skin, the kind with just enough evidence to feel solvable and just enough missing to keep you up at night, that's exactly what this series is built around. Next time on Unsolved Files, we're going into a case with an even stranger twist, a disappearance where the evidence that was found may be more disturbing than the evidence that wasn't. Subscribe, and I'll see you there.